Welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. This is a collective reading. I don't know how long it's going to be. I suppose we'll find out. I feel like it might be longish. So these readings in this round have been very interesting. And though I intend the readings to be timeless, they are very much of this moment. I sort of feel like, especially this particular moment, when there is a lot of change being offered. And I feel like that's important, that the change is an offer, but you don't have to accept it. The energy is there, but you don't have to accept it. I felt this way about many things, including death. Right, I've, gone, and looked at famous people's astrology and at the, doing the transits at the time of their death. And sometimes there's a very, right, you can really see, the opening, right, they're having a serious Jupiter or Neptune transit particularly. And sometimes it's, it's sort of less obvious. But I think that these openings appear perhaps multiple times in a lifetime. And we choose whether or not, right, to go through the door when it's available. So we have offerings. And depending on what, kind of what we're doing and what our soul is interested in and where we are, we may go through a door or not. So change is being offered. And that's sort of emphasized in this reading. We, the collective, chose two cards as sort of the overall energy, and the first was the moon. So this cyclical nature of the moon, right, the doorways, right, that things come around. But also emphasizing the moon cycle currently, right? There was an Aries new moon on March 21st. It's up 0 degrees of Aries. And there will be a second Aries new moon on April 20th at 29 degrees of Aries. The first was just hours after the sun entered Aries, and the second will be just hours before the sun moves into Taurus. So there is this emphasis of moon energy. And the second was from my Sacred Geometry deck, Soul Time. The frequency of soul time asks us to allow the possibility of a new reality to emerge, one that embraces the concept that while the corporeal body is mortal, the soul is timeless, limitless, and infinite. Now I also chose, I went to my Oracle playlist and asked for a song, and I got Shine by Collective Soul. So, there's two things in here. One, this idea of the invitation for a new reality to emerge. And the second, that we are all timeless, right? We chose, our soul stream chose to come and be made physical in a human body and have experiences and adventures and to learn and expand and have experiences, right? To revel in our physical form. And then for some of us, I think those of us that are here now in this reading, and perhaps right elsewhere, that there is a group of us who are being asked to transcend this division, to really embrace this timeless, limitless self, to kind of break the container of the physical form, not by rejecting it, but kind of by creating a sort of synthesis, right? Of really, seeing all of it, right? Kind of, lifting the veil, going behind the curtain. Right? So being able to really enjoy being physical, but also transcending that, breaking the rules. Understanding that if we make the choice, if we take the opening, then maybe the rules won't apply to us. And if you've been receiving this sort of message, it's possible that it brings up a lot of discomfort on a number of fronts. So we have this fast, inrushing Eight of Wands energy. And I think that this is actually less about speed and more about repetition. That you haven't gotten the message just once, but right, that it's shown up 8 times. Maybe in close succession, or in the last weeks or even days. And right, that this, and maybe the message, right, the Four of Swords is under here. So quite possibly this, message has been showing up in meditation, or if you had a divination practice, or, and stuff that comes that way, right, that we receive in this manner, we may have a lot of trouble accepting it or believing it. Because it seems insubstantial. And it's not the way that most of us have been taught to get information. Right? Usually we get information from some solid, human source, right? We read it in a book, or, it's a, double-blind, peer-reviewed study about something, or, it's just what everybody's been doing for the last 500 years, or whatever it is. But it comes, from somewhere else, possibly from some sort of authority. But just receiving things, right, personally, in our practice, can feel really insubstantial. And when it's kind of low stakes, information about, how love is the answer, or, we're all interconnected, or, nature is alive, and, these kinds of things, we can accept these. But if the message is, you are not bound by your physical form, you can break the rules. that may seem right like a bridge too far. So I feel like this reading here is twofold. One, to say, yes, we understand. We get it, right? This is kind of what you learned, right? That things are, right? That things are physical, that, you know, somebody has to give you something, right? Another human being has to hand you something in order for you to have it. That there has to be reciprocity and exchange and, right, a balance of energy. Right, that we all live in a very physical world. You know, and that in order to be happy, you have to be, right, sort of, you have to fit into the group. You have to believe the same things. In order to fit in. Right, that it's about working together with other people, right? That this is how, you know, you get stuff done collectively through, you know, collective effort. That, you know, doing stuff on your own can make you appear selfish or self-centered, right? Like here you are in your garden with all your stuff. Are you sharing? Right? Being off by yourself, right? Are you turning your back on everything? Are you turning your back on your friends and your family and your society and so on? So these are, right, these are all the, right, the things we can have playing on repeat in our mind. That if we, right, if we step outside, and this is old, it's so old. You know, we, in the spiritual community particularly, we talk wistfully, right, about ancient times when people were really connected to nature and they lived in small tribes and, but I think that some of that is romanticizing. I mean, yes, we were, right, more connected to everything. That's totally true. But tribal life, I think, was not all that it was cracked up to be necessarily. Right? You towed the line, or you were out. There was a lot of fear, right, around people stepping out of the rules. Because it would seem like if you went and did something contrary, that you could put the whole group at risk. At risk of, you know, possibly of death. And I think that we, right, we internalized this from really a long, long time ago. Hundreds of thousands of years. I was reading something that they found some signs of human remains that could be due to some soil and volcanic residue dated back more than 200,000 years. So I think this idea of people being in or people being out is probably, right, like the oldest thing that binds us, that puts us in a box. this fear that somebody being different will put the whole group at risk. So we make sure that we all, right, we all wear the same clothes, figuratively, right? We all, right, there's a uniform, right? So we can recognize each other. Right, it may be clothes, it may be, you know, what we say online, it may be, you know, the gadget we carry, it may be, right? There's all kinds of ways that we signal to one another, you know, we're in the same group. And to say, me, I can break the rules. The rules do not apply to me. Right? That's a deeply divisive sort of thing to say. But I'm here to tell you that you're being asked to say it to yourself. You don't have to like go around telling people. And we have this Eight of Wands repeating. But this is a totally different feeling, isn't it? In the Eight of Wands. Right, this is gentle. This is gentle energy. And it's energy being sent out into the world. Right here, this is energy arriving. And this is energy being released. And then the Ace of Pentacles. The new thing, the new creation, the new world that is yours. And, right, the message here is that this is not about selfishness. It's not. You are worthy of your own dream. And if you are in integrity, right, that's another thing that the aces are, right? They are whole, solid, singular, right, in their boundary, kind of the one. Right? If you know your own worthiness so completely that you have no fear, right, of being cast out, because you know it's impossible. Right? You cannot be cast out, actually. Right? A, because you remain human, regardless. And B, because you remain whole and infinite and part of the source, the all that is. Once you know that, then you're not going to fear anybody else either. Right? Then it is possible to become the Knight of Cups. And to me, this feels like him seeing the Grail elsewhere, right? That you can see that everybody, that all of the humans that you run into have their own heart space, their own personal Grail, that Spirit is offering everybody a cup. And that Spirit holds everyone, even those people whose lives seem just incomprehensibly awful. But that the only way to make any real difference is to accept your own cup. right? Because then you sort of lift off, right? You become powerful. You become able to move mountains, to know truths, to see what needs to be seen in any situation. And that it isn't even necessarily, right, about being, you know, like doing something. Actually, that collective soul song, right, talks about heaven shining its light down. And you can create change simply by being. By being in this source energy, this soul time space that creates the energetic ripple. Now, you're not going to solve all the problems everywhere. You're not going to save anybody that you run into. But you can be a conduit for healing in a space. Your presence can perhaps give people permission, right? To accept healing for themselves. Because that's really the deal, isn't it? We block our healing. And it's not our fault. This is not about fault or blame. But we are responsible, right? Responsibility is not blame. We are responsible for ourselves. And it can certainly take time, right? You may have to learn things and encounter things through your life before you can really accept that responsibility and create changes for yourself. And then when you do that, you provide an example. You are evidence for others, if that's what they need. And we have this Prince of Pentacles, or rather Knight of Pentacles. It can be a process, right? For everyone. And it's a process for us, right, to learn how to be in this energy, how to accept this energy. And then we get the King of Swords. So it's both a bodily process, right, with this Knight of Pentacles, a physical, somatic process of allowing this in the body, and then also the brain and the mind. Now, the King of Swords in his best aspect doesn't reject something because society says it's wrong, or there's no, double-blind study proof. He has his own criteria, right? He is claircognizance. Absolute knowing, right? Just knowing. Clarity. And self-confidence. So then we have the Fool. All right, and she's here with the moon. And under the Fool, we have the world. All right, so walking into the new world. Happily, blithely, joyfully. All right, with the moon with us. Right, ready to ring our bell. To possibly wake others as we go. Signal others. Right, you're not forcing anything on anybody. If they hear the bell, then they're ready to hear the bell. Ready to leave this winter behind. This kind of winter of the soul. Winter of the spirit. Where everything is barren. And ghost-like. And skeletal. To move radically, right? This is radical movement, right? Your whole house being carried away on a wave is radical. But it's not destructive, right? This is not a tsunami wave. And actually, I've just noticed for the first time that the moon is in this card here. The moon reappearing again. Right, this is about joy and wonder, not about destruction. As some people have pointed out, right, apocalypsis is about the veil being removed, about something being revealed. And if you have a society, right, that thrives, and I think that most societies do, on some things being veiled and covered over and not to be seen, then apocalypsis does sound horrific, right? To reveal the occult, what has been occulted, can seem like the end. But I think that if there is going to be genuine transformation, then those of us who see need to be willing to really see and to accept that. To accept kind of standing on the outside. Right? And in fact, turning our back on a bunch of crap that doesn't work anymore. Be willing to be prosperous, be willing to be happy, be willing to be that really annoying, cheerful person who loves everyone. And not in a, sort of glossy love and light is all there is way. But in a genuine, right, seeing all of it, seeing, both the beauty as well as the grief and the pain and the darkness. Knowing that none of it should be cast out. But also seeing that core of goodness that is there. Right? Seeing everybody's cup. Seeing everybody's heart. and then being that presence in the room. And I think that when you do that, when you see people that way, I think you just move differently. I think you just are different. I don't think that it's anything that you have to strive for, right? The work, right, or the thing that's difficult, right, is the willingness to see people that way, and the willingness to stand outside of the system that doesn't see people that way. Right. Now, I don't, again, I don't think that, right, that everybody's going to be, outside the rules. That's not everybody's journey. Plus, I think that would create some chaos. And that's another hard thing, to accept the idea that you're different, that you are special in this particular way, right? We're taught not to do that, right? Right? To not really put ourselves forward, to not brag, to not see ourselves as, different or better. And we're not better, right? Right? We're not superior or above anybody. But if we're going to be part of a transformation that I think we all want to happen, right? The world isn't, right, and like it doesn't work for most people. We've kind of reached an apotheosis of separation and boxing people into things. Right? It's like at a fever pitch. I think it's been building, right, since we became human. I think this is a long arc that's just been building and building and building, and that we are kind of reaching this fever pitch. So if we want, a world that is better for most people in it, then I think we have to be willing to say, yes, I am different. In this particular lifetime, it might be, right, we don't know what's going to happen when you get born again or who you were in the last 50 lifetimes. But this lifetime, my part, my experience, what I wanted to do was to be different in this way. Was to come to this understanding where I could straddle the physical and the metaphysical. Where I could allow miracles and impossible things to occur. Because from Source's perspective, nothing is impossible. Right? Something appearing out of thin air, right, is nothing to Source. So, right, but it goes against all of the training, right? It makes us feel like we're bad. I was actually reading on Instagram, there's an astrologer who's doing a series of unshaming the signs, right? She's starting with Aries. And every sign has stuff associated with it that's shameful, right? For Aries, it's, being too much, being too exuberant, being too fiery, putting yourself forward. Right? Being the fire in the room, right? Leos have that too, right? All the fire signs have that kind of thing. So this, right, it's, not only does it make you bad if you think you're different, if you think you know more or see more than other people, right, and that's shaming, right, you're bad, you're out, You don't care about other people clearly. Right? You're outcast. But there is also the fact that, right, it does make your circle smaller. Right? There may be a very limited number of people. There may only be one other person. Possibly. Or two. That you can really share this with. Right? Who's around you. We're out here, right? The collective soul is here. But, this online stuff and your own, your guides and your angels and right, that's very different than actual people in your life that you can touch and smell and hug and know. And it can be, right, it can be difficult. And some of us have encountered this, haven't we, in the last 3 years? Deep divisions have formed even within families. And so we've encountered this, what feels really harsh, right? To believe things that others don't. But again, you don't, right? It is not necessary that you share this understanding with everybody, right? That it may only be that one person to whom you can say, the rules, they don't apply to me. I can make stuff happen. I can create miracles. I can allow impossible things into my life. You don't have to tell everybody. All you have to do, I say all, is just to love them. They don't have to know. Because you know. You know that they're this multi-dimensional being too. They don't have to see it. That's right. That's not their journey this time around. That's not what they wanted to explore and experience. And that, right, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't see them as wrong, right, then you can just love them. You can stand outside the group and still have belonging within the group. You can still belong because you are a human being. You belong. You are worthy of love and belonging. You can. Right? You can have all of these things. You can feel like this. You can feel the beauty and magic and amazingness of the universe. You can allow yourself this. We have the bee here, I think, right, as an emphasis, right, on collective life. Right, on interconnectedness. And under the bee is disruption. So, this is the paradox. Right, to be the bee, to be part of the collective, but also to be disruptive, to be subversive, to hold the truth about restriction. That you can transcend restriction. Right. That you can heal yourself, your own body. That you can move through the world without restriction, if you allow that for yourself. And the Earth Fairy shows up here, I think, right, with a very sort of knowing look. She has a very knowing look to me today, like, yes, this is the secret. The secret of the creative power of Source. The secret that we are all soul streams, part of Source. That connection exists at all times, even when we don't feel it. So advice. The Chariot. Yeah, get in. She's here. There's no meter running, but she's right. She's here. She's expecting you. Get in the Chariot. Go. And actually under her, for emphasis, is this 3 of Fire, which is another vehicle. Just go. All right, all the possibilities are there. Right? For me, actually, this is my sort of my soul fellowship card. Right? All the beings that exist there, who are, you know, part of my particular little collective, that we're on this path together, having this experience together. There to help and provide guidance and inspiration and humor. But also, right, because this can be confusing, right? If you do feel this sort of confusion, right, this kind of 7 of Cups, what do I do, where do I go, Neptunian thing. Ace of Earth. Come back to ground. Come back to self. What do you know? What do you know in your body? And what do you know in your heart? What does love say? What does your knowing say? Separate from society or what anybody else says. And it's possible that this might require some sort of fasting from other influences, possibly including this one. Certainly anybody that tells you that any particular way is the way to go. You know, and I would say to you, you can go through this gate or not. That is entirely up to you. You do what you want. You do what feels right. I mean, I am making a little bit of a presumption that if you're here listening, that if you've made it all the way to almost 45 minutes, that you do have this knowing for yourself. But, you know, I would never presume to tell you what to do. My only advice is, right, is that you get clear for yourself. And what are you, right? Some of the stuff that we've been working on, right, is getting clear for ourselves, is reorienting, realigning our own compasses that got kind of messed up. You know, if you have a compass, sometimes if there's a radio or other magnetic thing near it, it can throw off the compass a little bit, right? It's not gonna, suddenly show south where north is, but it could, be a few degrees off, right? If you were on a sailing ship, right? You want to keep your compass clear so that you, right, follow the right course. And right, that radio is like, for us, is everybody else's voices. All the stuff that you learned when you were little about how you were supposed to behave and how society works, and all the different ways that hierarchy works, right? There's your parents, there's school, there's all of these things. There's different authorities that we accepted. And it is true, right, that for a society to exist, there does have to be a certain amount of structure. Right? Somebody has to take care of the roads and the sewer systems, and right, if when you have a whole lot of people living together. But there's a middle ground, right? There are places where authority doesn't belong. And we've been getting clear on that, right? Realigning our compasses to our true north, to our soul's true north, to our hearts, our personal grail's true north, right? That's the real grail quest, is to know that for yourself. And that's where we all are, here in this collective. So I hope you're up for the adventure. And that you'll stick with us here as we go, wherever it is that we go. I'm excited for all of us. I wish you all the very best, and I will see you next time. So long.